The Circadian World, in the footsteps of Taiga Maya. Written and directed by Thierry Van Roy, with the voice of Woody Young. Part 5. One day, Novomir, his brother living in Russia, phoned Anton to propose that he switch back to his former job. He got wind of a job as an expert for a Norwegian mining company. It paid well, and they were looking for a permafrost expert. In fact, Anton had recently written to his brother and broke the news that he was willing to leave Mexico. Pushed by some unconscious urge, he wanted a change in his life, to get away from this village where people had adopted him from his earliest times. Although Yatzil did not feel much like following him there, he accepted the job. The company was based in Anchorage, Alaska, and as he was just starting the job, Anton was sent by plane 300 miles away to the Wrangell Mountains, very difficult to access. Every night, his dream continued to construct a parallel world. There was not a single hour of the day when he did not think about his companions on the walk and this exodus towards the daylight amidst a more and more degraded real world. It was not a nightmare. It was as if he were living two parallel lives, and that one day, the one in his dreams would become the real one. Sometimes this feeling anguished him. He was conflicted by the notion of reality. Reality does not exist. Everything is just a creation of the two senses. Two people shaking hands create only sensory stimuli, but nothing proves that they, or the face and the voice of the other person, the restaurant, or the background music, really exist. Each of them has created the other, has given them a voice and a face. The atmosphere is different for each. They both hear different music. In fact, neither of them exist, only sensations and vibrations. The world is made up of these energies, constant changes of shape. Anton was always dizzy when these ambiguities about reality tormented him. An ice storm prevented the little Cessna, owned by the company, to bring him back to Anchorage. The plane had to land in the south at a little airport on the Pacific coast next to the estuary of the Situk River. Formerly a part of Russia, Alaska was not a big change of scene for him, despite long years spent under the sun of Chiapas. He was very fond of snow and coldness, of virgin nature and silence. There was much more than the Bering Strait that was separating them from the Siberians. The name of the little harbour he was discharged at was Yakutia. The fishermen were very busy at this time, when winter was coming to an end, since the floes were withdrawing from the Puerto de Desengaño, the Bay of Disenchantment, so called by a Spanish navigator who thought he had found a shipping lane to the west here. Yakutia. This name was resonating in his head, and he couldn't understand why. The next night, in a dream, he saw himself in this destroyed village with his exiled companions, resting a while before resuming their walk. The dreams kept coming, weaving a clear and terrible story. Some days, Anton was left waiting for the evening, as one does when impatiently waiting to read the book that they started the night before. He was thinking about this moment, when he would drift asleep and enter his other world. He thought that perhaps he was schizophrenic, but without suffering. Both lives were nourishing each other without ever joining together. He used to wake up with this feeling of still having a foot in the other world. Bewitched by this hidden facet of his life, he found himself more fulfilled, more closely connected with his deeper nature, when in this quest for a paradise that real life had only ever shown in draft form, on scattered and often unreadable sheets, written with a transparent ink of tears and joy. On that morning, the company sent him a message asking him to stay in Yakutia. The pilot had to make a priority flight to Fairbanks, and Anton would be sent another plane in a week that would fly him back to Anchorage. The weather was superb, and the glaciers all around the bay were dazzling. To kill time, Anton walked around the docks aimlessly. In a house on the street just off the main avenue, he heard some music being played over and over. The door was left ajar, and a woman's voice could be overheard singing. Anton was moved by this melody of timeless beauty. It made him see confused images in his head. There was an odor of plants, and he heard wind and voices from other times. Through the sun-filled window of the house, he saw a young woman with dark hair, and next to her, a Scandinavian-looking man was fingering a keyboard, absorbed by his computer while still exchanging a few words with her. The lyrics of the song were time, illusion. Lost in thought, Anton strolled down to the main street, taking with him this mesmerizing melody that would not leave him. On the corner, a little shop attracted him. The shop sign said, "At Ksenia's pleasure." In the sunlit shop window, various kinds of objects seemed to play their role in a mini theatre. Inside a basket, there were round apples, olive oil of an excellent brand, a design in pencil calligraphy that spelt love letters, a few Russian cult films, Plato's Republic, Machiavelli's The Prince, and other carefully selected books. There was also a very select kind of flour to bake bread, a German refracting telescope, and a few decorative items. Next to the counter, a woman was looking toward the bay and did not seem to pay attention to him. Her Asian face radiated an unspeakable melancholy that did not completely disappear when she smiled to welcome him as he pushed open the door to enter. Ksenia has been the proprietress of this store forever. Her grandparents were from Hungary and ended up here in Alaska in a complicated way. A long story. Ksenia only sells things that she likes, and her pleasure was to share her taste for the bread she liked, the books that charmed her, the brand of wool that she appreciated the most because it was the softest. On the wall there were lithographs from the New York School, along with a mandala embroidered on the Tibetan tanka. On a shelf there were two strange Kachina dolls of the Hopi Indians, alongside Italian cookbooks and little handmade birch boxes. In this fishing village, where people are busier catching half a ton of halibuts than reading Pushkin, Ksenia has always appeared somewhat unreal. There was always an impassable distance between her and others, as if she were not totally real. She was recognized as a good advisor, even as an oracle according to some people. They would come to see her concerning private affairs, and she had the reputation of rarely being wrong in her judgments. Most of her clients never bought anything. They only came for advice, a message, or the interpretation of a dream, and they always left the shop richer than when they entered. At any rate, nobody had ever bought anything there because she had managed not to let anything go. Sometimes Ksenia said that she was just waiting for the end of her life, although she wasn't suffering from any particular illness. She said that she had finished her duty in this life and seemed much untroubled by her odd little purgatory. Anton was already in the shop when a bell on the door rang to announce the presence of a visitor. He felt she was staring at him. "May I help you, sir?" Anton answered that he was not looking for anything in particular, that he was in the village by chance. "Everything happens for a reason. Take your time." He was attracted by an object above, which was a little note handwritten with the word "new." It seemed as if all the objects in the shop had been organized to draw attention to this box. "What's this one?" Anton asked, intrigued. Ksenia explained to him that it was a peculiar book, and she opened it for him. The book was elaborately illustrated and also held a record and a film inside. The cover showed a well-crafted, moon-like Asian face. It is, how should I say, very ancient and very new at the same time. In any case, it's very special. Would you like to have a listen? Anton assented. In this little space at Ksenia's, he felt at home, as if he had known her forever. She was one of those human beings whom you come across in life and who make you feel sure that they have just appeared to divert the trajectory of your destiny. You probably won't see them again, and they might not even really exist. When Ksenia played the first track of the record, Anton immediately recognized the same melody that he had heard in the street at the musician's house. She read his mind and said, "These musicians are in Yakutia to rehearse for their tour in Alaska and Canada. You might have seen them in town. I met them 1 week ago, and as they pleased me, I suggested that I might display their CD book in my window." She let the refrain finish. "I'm sure that you will like it. They were inspired by the ancient music from Yakutia, as well as Mayan and Hispanic rhythms, and they have used these to recreate new melodies." "Very surprising crossover," Anton said. "Not that strange," said Ksenia. "These people have already met in ancient times. This music is somehow their reunion." At the end of the song, they gazed at each other, and after a long silence, she said, "Soon you will have to choose. You can't live forevermore in both worlds." Anton shuddered. He wanted to buy the box of apples and the album to make up for it. Ksenia gave him the book as a souvenir, but also a small printed catalogue with some very unusual items. "Try the essential oil of firefly. You'll see, it will do you the world of good." Anton took his leave, smiling. In the generous sunshine, he walked along the quayside to the end of the pier, where there was a wide view of the bay, and sat there for a long time without thinking, on a bench eaten away by the salt. At dusk, Anton went back to Mackenzie, the lodging house where he was staying, waiting for the plane that would bring him back home. He made himself comfortable on his bed, bit into an apple, and opened the book that he had acquired at Ksenia's. "Those who try to leave can't. They stopped traveling long ago. Anyway, the roads don't go anywhere. Other people may still exist somewhere. Once traces of them were seen. People also thought they heard." Anton suddenly closed the book, feverish. He was obsessed with the desire to go to the other side, to join his companions on their exodus. This time, he could not find sleep. He thought about Ksenia and about his wife waiting in Anchorage, also about the report for the company, of which he hadn't written a line yet. The more he tried to fall asleep, the more agitated he became. As it was nearly dawn, tiredness finally overtook him, and he fell into a deep sleep. A tiny soft hand is caressing his forehead when he wakes up, and a small voice says, "Now then, Grandfather Anton, what are you waiting for? Christmas? How about the nails for the cage?" Bering-Or, year 2100. The notion of time is well defined now. The lunar calendar is better adapted to people's way of life. An almanac of meteorological occurrences has also been set up. Rains and clouds seem to appear with a metronomic regularity. New meteorological phenomena have appeared. Hot snow coming from the dark hemisphere and blown into the solar hemisphere by strong high-altitude winds. Mirages are common due to the fixity of the sun in the sky. They are permanent now and are even charted on maps. Huge icebergs have broken away from the ice masses to the south and move all over the solar hemisphere. Outside of Bering-Or, the world is organized as before. There are those who hold power and those who don't, the rich and the poor. After the first few decades of adaptation to their new conditions of life, the surviving communities have become organized. The population of the Earth quadruples every 20 years. The notion of a technological society based on a market economy is history. First, because the world population has dramatically shrunk to about 1 million, and secondly, because the exchange networks and means of transportation are missing. Bering-Or is situated in the temperate zone, where the sun is low and the rains that come at regular intervals allow the inhabitants to live a self-sustaining life. There are no nights anymore, but the good old circadian rhythm is still intrinsically inscribed in the survivors' genes. To maintain good health, people are advised to travel often through the dark hemisphere. Everyone tunes their rhythm as they prefer and creates an artificial night when they need it. The poor live, in general, in the solar hemisphere, where the land is less desirable. Water and food are scarce there, and can be obtained by working for the inhabitants of the temperate zone. The poor can only recreate their circadian rhythms by sleeping in basements that they have dug, like burrows, but that can't compare to a really cool night with stars in the sky such as people have in the dark hemisphere. The new houses are made of a single wall to protect against the sun and a roof to stave off the rain. There are no other walls, just a surrounding hedge to provide seclusion. For a person to have 4 walls in the house is considered individualistic, which is incompatible with the lifestyle of the town's inhabitants. The health problems with which people suffer are mainly psychological. Due to the absence of natural rhythms, despite the general use of wristwatches with sliding black and white discs for night and day. Their chosen division of time is based upon periods of lunar revolution. The lunar month, divided into 24 days, lengthens the circadian days to 28 hours. Before 2012, scientists had locked up a group of volunteers in an isolated room sonically insulated from outside influences, in order to measure their natural rhythms free from social constraints. After a month, they noticed that most of them had already lengthened their habits by 1 or 2 hours. Some stabilized at around 27 hours. From the year 2025 onwards, the Council of Bering-Or has gathered at regular intervals to regulate its society, taking care to avoid falling into ancient patterns. The point is not to repeat the mistakes of the past, but to work on a utopian project, taking into account the complexity of human nature. Over and above everyone's opinion, they consult Anton's hard disk archives to find roughly interesting models, notably in Gurdjieff, Bakunin, Marx, Plato, and so on. A huge amount of philosophical writings is at their disposal, but to tell the truth, they don't really know what to do with it all. The change in environment is so different that most of the classical concepts have become obsolete. Some people propose to create a common language instead of using Xhosa, Tutsi, Spanish or Russian. Some also refer to the analytical language of John Wilkins as a model. Some are partisan to a reset, starting from scratch, getting rid of everything from the past and listening only to the shamans. Specific laws are voted on concerning the shadows, as the sun is always in the same place in the sky, and shadows are always projected in the same direction. These laws define the status of the shadows in life. As shadows are everlasting and invariable, one cannot plant a tree or build a house without taking into account one's neighbour's sunshine. The temperate zone is also known as the long shadows zone. This geographical zone is clearly defined. It starts from the latitude where one's shadow is twice as tall as oneself, and ends where it is 4 times as tall. They democratically decide to abandon the idea of democracy. They will elect a wise person whom they all trust and who will make all the decisions for the community, assisted by a shaman who will channel advice from the other world's reality and establish new rituals to preserve the city's unity and solidarity. As in ancient Chinese civilizations, music and dance are the golden ways to connect heaven and earth. They concentrate on the knowledge of sound. By having an essential knowledge of sounds, notes and scales, social cohesion will be improved and the human soul will be elevated. A Chinese emperor of the 2nd century spent his whole life traveling throughout the empire, checking that the vassals respected the pitch defined by the capital, thereby guaranteeing their subjection. In every era, certain notes and scales were forbidden because they carried uncontrollable forces, such as the augmented fourth, which represented the voice of the devil. They know as well that the fundamental note of the earth is a subharmonic of G. The seismographs later retrieved clearly showed that the note produced when the asteroid crashed into the earth resonated for a long time afterwards. Therefore, the people of Bering-Or determined how to sing in harmony with the earth. Everyone is born with his own fundamental note that agrees with his personal evolution. Beings can be in phase and harmony with other beings, things, and the earth. These complex interactions have given birth to codes and rules of social harmony, as in their music theory. According to people's sonic signature and their own harmonics throughout their whole life, it is possible to predict the agreement between 2 people. The world is an immense vibrating field with infinite harmonies. Added to everyone's name is mention of his note and his harmonies as a real identification. Every being is unique through its sound. A sound repeated 1,000 times appears never to be the same. Every sound emitted never dies. It combines with others, transforms its own energy, and through a butterfly effect can contribute to changing the world. The new mathematics are based on the number 12. The classifications of the world will come closer to the divine by using the number 3. 3 cardinal points, 3 lunar phases, and 3 seasons. The places of worship need to be triangular. The golden section is established as law. It is only from 2050 on that they begin investigating the fate of the other populations on Earth. The rare surviving colonies in the area finally federate. Anton meets with the representatives of other settlements, and because of mistrust, they enter into a non-aggression agreement. Each different community has accumulated a fund of goods found in the ruins of the ancient Circadian World. They are all interested now in making trades, and in showing that they are well organized and capable of defending themselves. The exchange is a guarantee of peace between colonies, but for how long? Anton establishes radio contact with a satellite that is still sending pictures of the Earth since the collision. They now have pictures and news from the rest of the world. Few European and American people have survived. Many of them were irradiated by their wrecked nuclear plants, and all their groundwaters were poisoned by chemicals. Central Africa fared better and organized itself faster than anywhere else. They are on their way to becoming the ruling people on Earth. Their underdevelopment at the time of the Circadian World left them a more livable territory after the collision, all the more advantageous since their area hardly moved. However, their territory is attracting the interest of other people. Epilogue. Anton at last got news from the pilot. The forecast was good on Disenchantment Bay, and at the end of the afternoon the plane to Anchorage took off with Anton on board. Yatzil was on the lookout for Anton at the airport. They had never been separated for so long from each other. In the taxi that brought them back to town, Yatzil gave him the latest news about his sons, about their family, and about Zinakanten. An evening rain was starting to fall, and light from the cars was dancing in the raindrops on the window pane. Anton could hardly carry on the conversation. He was tired as never before and could not stop yawning. What time could it be? He looked at his wristwatch. The black disc was starting to slide over the white disc. It was way past the time to go to sleep. You've been listening to The Circadian World in the Footsteps of Taiga Maya. Part 5. Written and directed by Thierry Van Roy, with the voice of Woody Young. Music composed by Thierry Van Roy. Lyrics by Melanie Gabriel. Singer Melanie Gabriel.
Unos dicen que es tocuyo.
People say that it's tocuyo.
Yo digo que es curarigua.
Others say it's curarigua.
El tocuyo y curarigua
El tocuyo, curarigua.
son dos cosas parecidas.
Son dos cosas parecidas.
El tocuyo y curarigua
El tocuyo, curarigua.
son dos cosas parecidas.
Son dos cosas parecidas.
Óyale, óyale.
Déjala que se te vaya, que no se te va a morir. Déjala que se te vaya, que no se te va a morir. Si los celos se la llevan, el amor la hace venir. Si los celos se la llevan, el amor la hace venir.
Amundo mi curarigua,
I'm in love with Curarigua.
tierra donde yo nací.
It's the place where I should be.
Amundo mi curarigua,
I'm in love with Curarigua.
tierra donde yo nací.
It's the place where I should be.
Vivo soñando contigo,
Dream of you, I can't let go.
no puedo vivir sin ti.
Take me back, set me free.
Vivo soñando contigo,
Dream of you, I can't let go.
no puedo vivir sin ti.
Take me back, set me free. Déjala que se te vaya, que no se te va a morir. Déjala que se te vaya, que no se te va a morir. Si los celos se la llevan, el amor la hace venir. Si los celos se la llevan, el amor la hace venir. los celos se la llevan, el amor la hace venir. Decida pollito que venga para acá. Decida pollito que venga para acá. Que venga para acá, que venga para acá. Que venga para acá, que venga para acá.
¿Quieres cantar una canción? Aquí en el micrófono. Y te regalo 2573 dulces.
Hija, vamos a cantar.
Canta la canción. Cante para el caballero.